Yes, we see your screen.
Just for my information, is it recording, correct?
Yes, all our session are recorded and will be accessed for
Good morning.
all participants.
Good morning, Nikos. Good morning, Vyacheslav. Good morning, Tatiana.
Good morning.
So I will suggest to just to wait for just a couple more minutes. It's 8 o'clock in my part of the Europe, and I think it's 9 o'clock at your part, correct?
Yes. Okay. We will check the time and. Okay.
It's 9 o'clock. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So I will introduce myself very briefly, and after that, I will. Good morning, Yevgen has joined. We have 14 people in the session. All right. Do we have somebody in the audience, like in the big screen, or just people who join? It's number of people.
Well,
It's possible.
Is a general plenary session, but today is Saturday morning, and so I hope sure that participants will be more.
Yeah, that is no worries. It's quality more than important than quantity.
Yes. Let's wait 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. I will do I have a certain way of presenting, so I will kindly ask you to write me in the chat which country you came from, or when the country where you are now physically.
Yesterday I said.
I will take, if I may, Vyacheslav, I will kindly ask participants of the sessions will write in the chat.
We can check because we completely record all session, and we can see how much and from which country participants.
Okay, yeah, I see Ukraine. So it's just for making sure that you are wake up. It's just for a game. It's nothing for my. Okay, so I see 2 Ukrainians. I believe the Nikos are now in Greece.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, from Greece, in Greece now.
Okay. So you're running the session. It's just
now.
a little bit kind of making that more interactive. All right. Okay. And you can maybe somebody could write me the fields you're working. Are you in the cybersecurity, or you're in the risk management, or in your robot techniques, or maybe cryptography?
Our participants work and research different problem of safety, security, reliability, dependability in area Internet of Things, robotics, cloud, and so on. Hence, we have matrix of different technologies and problem related to different.
Innovation too. Okay, this is the good news.
Yes,
so we have innovation. All right.
Of course. We cannot without aviation. We are from Aviation Institute.
It's super important right now. It's a big topic. Okay, Hari Rama is joining. Good morning or good afternoon. Just tell me which country you are now physically, and Hari Rama, I hope
I'm from India, actually.
Pardon?
I'm from India, actually.
Yes, fantastic. And where you're from right now physically?
I'm in India.
You are in India physically. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are working in which field?
I'm just a student.
Are you just a student? All right. This is also good. Okay.
Yeah.
For which faculty, by the way?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Faculty.
My faculties are my co-authors, actually, like second and third authors who will be joining later.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have the little bit speech here. well, I'm running a lot of trainings, and I think interaction is important. So you feel free to interact with me, all right, and ask questions, especially at the end. And I think I am going to start. I will very briefly introduce myself. So my name is Irina.
Maybe, sorry, Irina, maybe I'll introduce you.
Okay.
You'll add, because we'll start our session now, and I will say about additional information today, and after that I introduce for you. Okay. Okay. Okay, dear colleagues, let's start our plenary session. It's the plenary session number 3. Yesterday we had a very nice, very productive, perfect day. 47 presentation were discussed on our 4 workshops. And today we start our working day from beginning of plenary session. The main message of this session is security from economy to chips to processors. We will have very wide picture of security and safety. It's my pleasure to invite for first plenary keynote talk Dr. Irina Leroy. Irina represents a few organizations from academia and industry, University Laurent Nancy, France, and the European Security and Defense College, Brussels, Belgium, and other organizations. Irina is an experienced professional with over 14 years of experience in ICT and the security as a service sector across Europe, United States, Caucasus, Central Asian countries for digital transformation initiatives. Since 2019, she has been a PhD fellow at the European Security and Defense College. Currently serving as a group information security officer for risk information security and the quality at Worldline Group. She manages a large number of information security audits for 50 plus company entire globally. She directly manages qualified security auditors and performs software application gap security and data assessment for financial solutions. She has completed extensive training in domain of security and defense, including cyber diplomacy at the European Union level. Irina also serves as an academic professor in risk management. Nancy, holding valuable certification, including Learn Six Sigma Black Belt. Dr. Irina Leroy's interests are specialization links to economic security, cyber autonomy, and risk management for critical infrastructure. Thank you very much, Irina, for your contribution with our conference, and welcome for your talk, for your lecture. Welcome. Yes. Please full screen, and you will start. Welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for this introduction, and I also would like to thank you to all of you who is present this morning. Well, I hope you can see my screen. I have 2 screens. Indeed, all was that Professor Vyacheslav mentioned. It's correct. And my presentation would be a little bit different, maybe, because I will cover the article that was submitted for this conference, and also at the end I will cover, as a second part, the economical security more deeply here. And my main goal is not maybe to share with you the knowledge, of course the knowledge, but not the article's outcomes that you could read by yourself when once the conference paper would be published. So I believe it would be in November. But maybe and better is to give you the thoughts to think, and maybe some kind of ideas for your future researches or for your future articles and cooperation. So this is my main goal, to inspire you, first of all. That's why I welcome all of you who came all over the world, and now we understand that it's many people. So welcome. It's 19 people right now. It's quite large audience for online conference. So thank you again for joining. I will switch off my camera to make more comfortable and more speedy, and we start. So a few moments about the agenda that we are going to speak today. So first of all, again, I welcome you to the International Conference of on Dependable System Services and Technologies in the Athens, Greece. One of the most historical and wonderful places in the world that I suggest you all to not only to visit, but also to read the history. I'm very passionate. I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers from the various countries who made this conference possible and continue to support researchers in their respective regions. Nowadays, it's very important. So I am very much would like to share with you and possibly answer on your questions. So critical infrastructure and
sorry, Irina, sorry for my interruption. You change slides or not? Because
yes, I'm going to change. Yes, I'm going to change.
Yeah, we see just first one.
Yeah, and now you can see the second one or not?
No, just first one.
Okay, this is again the same story that had been before with I will.
Yes. Now we see slide number 4.
Okay. Yeah, it takes time. All right, so it takes time to.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a third.
Yeah, it's yes. This is correct.
Irina, sorry for interruption. Maybe you should run presenters view and share a presentation and open presenters view on the laptop.
Yeah, I believe I will figure out. No worries. So this is would be done. All right. So now just tell me if you can see. If you can see the presentation.
Yes, we see presentation. If you can you make the full screen?
Yes.
If you want to share in full screen mode, it's necessary to stop the sharing and start with entire screen, and then it will be possible to switch the demonstration in full screen mode.
Is it possible for me to make it in this way or not?
Sorry, you can continue in this way. So it's enough because we can see the general.
Honestly, it's much better.
Yeah.
I will do this in this case.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, absolutely okay.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, well, my presentation would be for 2 parts, so we will have just 2 parts. First, we are going to discuss briefly about article and about the research that currently is still going. And the second part, I will discuss more about the economical security, cyber autonomy, and I hope I will give you some thoughts about this field, because during the conference I already heard something that very much echo what we are doing now. So, a few words about the critical infrastructures. Critical infrastructure refers to the essential system and assets, as you know, both physical and virtual, that is a vital functionality for the society and for the economy. Effective risk management, that of course belong to the critical infrastructure, providing the protecting critical infrastructure and helps identify vulnerabilities, assets, potential threats, and develop strategies to ensure the security and community and continuity of those assets. In my findings of my articles that I submit for your conference, I am going to speak about that protection in terms of the security recovering and the different companies. A few words about the article that presenting for this conference. In the article, we are covering and calculating the final impacts of the cyber attack on the stock market, and the time and effort that company stocks needs in order to recover from those attacks. Recovery occurs when the company stocks returns to the same level. A little bit about their relevance for different audience. First, it would be very important and interesting for the cyber insurance companies. Those companies who are specializing, for instance, like different banks and insurance companies, as I said, who insure companies who needs to find certain metrics to evaluate the maturity of the cyber response teams and the company readiness. So it means that insurance companies basically will have additional metrics of evaluation that helps them see the full picture. Next, it's financial services industries. Organizations who operationally operate in the domain of investment management. So it means the hedge funds, private equity firms, wealth management firms, etc. Next, it could be capacity building, and it's also the area and the companies or audience or any activities that are connected to this field. So internal companies and the internal company teams bend the attention. So it means that they will have some instincts when the attention and team's efforts needs to go, and coordination between different departments. Also, it would be very useful for responding to strategy planning, both internal and external teams. As you know, those teams needs to be coordinated together. And based on the new regulations of European Commissions that also applicable for other rest of the world, and those regulations like the Digital Act, you can see now open running in the Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok has to comply with this regulation, or DORA regulation. And DORA specifically is covering critical infrastructure. It is the act of European Commission that designed for it. So DORA, as well as other legal regulations, are requires to coordination of mitigation strategy and responding of the cyber attack. And here you can see European and maybe also other teams from the rest of the world names that needs to respond to the cyber attack. Well, the cyber insurance market reflects a company effort to transfer or mitigate the risks associated with the potential financial losses and data breaches resulting from cyber attack, as well as a reputational risk. And you can see that investment to this field are significant and growing. Of course, more or less it will be stabilized in a certain days. However, you can see that there's also market there. Our research shows that using right tools is essential to prompt recovery from the cyber attack. Here, more or less, you can see the kind of not template, but maybe I would say the very schematic information of the beginning of the cyber attack, recovery of the stock at the same level, and that period when the teams, as I said, internal, external teams, who needs to react all together and provide the correct response, should act. Security officers and investor relations should work, investor relations, and the chief investor relations, reputation management team, and IT team should work together. So all of that is just very schematic, but of course it helps to understand how those teams need to coordinate their common efforts to recover for any cyber attack that impact their stocks. Certainly, if we're speaking about the market of the critical infrastructure or the biggest companies, most probably they are in the stock market and they have shares in the stocks. That's why it's applicable, first of all, to them, and it's much easier to calculate. Given the financial, legal, and reputational harm, no organization benefits from the cyber attack, certainly. The potential of damage to company reputation and its rise concerns about the reputational defense, establishing the right strategy and rules for protecting it, it's very important. So you can see the joint number when basically the using or the having internal CISO position and cooperation between internal investor relations specialist, CISO position, or having internal reputation management specialist is significant to recover from the cyber attack much quicker. And certainly also it means that the financial loss would be much less. If you transform it into the Lean Six Sigma, you can see in the second table the numbers, and it also shows that the numbers is doubles. Indicates if no reputation management tools in place or no correct number not used of the all reputation management tools in place. How it looks like, and maybe that is much better to understand or to see here, and the reason because you can actually to see the impact that is so could be used for certain metrics of the insurance companies who is calculating the financial loss from the cyber attack and can give this or that insurance, or can do reassessment of the company maturity before having any business relations with any company who is asking for cooperate or to protect by giving the insurance to the company. So it illustrates different and possible scenarios based on the reputation management and aids to forecast potential impact. As you can see that the curve is much Lean Six Sigma look like, or Lean Six Sigma wise, comparing of those companies who is not implementing the certain tools, no cooperation in place, or no coordination between different teams that working on the recovery from the cyber or data breaches. So it could be any kind of cyber attack. The average value of shares losses in the first group is compared to the second group, and of course it's you can see it's a number. It's almost triple minus from the second group in the total capitalization of the company. So businesses in successful reputation management groups, insurance companies can conduct audit assessments and offer reduced insurance fees or any other benefits to those companies who kind of comply with, if I may use this word, comply with a certain rules in terms of the taking care of the putting in place the mitigation plan and coordination effort of the different groups in the company after the cyber attack. And I want to once again to ensure you from the practice that certainly the different groups within the company, different departments, and different people should certainly belongs to the risk management or business continuity groups to recovering the cyber attack should be there, should be as a team, working as a team, and that certainly I think you know it. Those efforts and coordination mechanism. Policies of the coordination should be in written and integrated in the company risk management or risk response policy or ARM, enterprise risk management coordination. And now we are, just to save your time, we are going to the second part, and we will speak a bit about economical security. Certainly, you have seen that I'm, in despite of my technical experience and the knowledge that I have and I implement in my daily work, I am more speaking about the financial impact or reputational impact of the cyber attack. And the reason of that's because those losses, reputational and financial losses, became so significant that company simply should invest a lot of efforts and to pay huge attention in these topics, as it could be the lifesaver also for them in the case if such events like any data breaches could happen. So in order to think in the way how I present the second part, I will give you just certain frame, and this frame basically would be about the two fields that you need to consider before I'm going to explain you a little bit about economical security, and hope it will be kind of your potential topics in your future research, or you can implement it as a strength, in my opinion, that is visible now. So first of all, I like very much, and I encourage you to read and to learn more about the Chicago School of Economics and Nobel Prize laureate Milton Friedman. By the way, despite of the fact that Milton Friedman is American, his parents are Ukrainians. That was escaped for many years ago, before the Second World War, from Ukraine. Just they went to US. And the second, it is about the multi-level relations in the other domains. And this is just what I was speaking with you just now. Cyber attack became increasingly difficult now, and customers became impacted within organizations in their distributions of the loss. So ignoring the specific multi-level relations among the information security, state policies, reputation management, technical aspects, and the economy is lead to systematical risks. That's why, as a core of the research, also and you can see this in my other researches, in the screen right now you can see the cyber autonomy that includes implementation, reputation management, resources, infrastructure management, and administrative part, and which is also includes, of course, the policies, procedures, and other instruments, soft instruments, methods, and the state policies, regulations, etc. And a little bit, a few words about economical security or different scenarios and other topics that covers this model. Issues such as autonomous decision-making, cybersecurity protocols, or ethical consideration of the autonomous cyber defense mechanism, or potential risk, and that all benefits widely within European Union. It becomes, and this became cyber attack that often cross-border in nature of many of physical impact and critical infrastructure of the EU. So, and cross-border, certainly it means that it's not only EU-related cyber attack, but it goes beyond when EU or European Union entities have their companies outside EU. So directly or indirectly, certainly they also impact the companies within this region, European Union region. Significant cybersecurity incidents can be destructive for the single or several affects member states, and several member states could act together, but one member state, for instance, only one country like France cannot act or handle this alone. That can be also formed as a part of the large hybrid attacks that carry out by third countries to aim to destabilize the economy. And that would happen many times, for instance, in my case in Belgium, when stabilized economy was cyber attack that aimed to destabilize economy was around Christmas a few years ago, when the payment terminals was affected and people were not be able to do the payments like one day before the Christmas in the many shops and supermarkets. Economical security and economical defense, never like before, means national security. For that reason, cyber autonomy that you can see now on your screen or the model, associated with the digital transformation include the testing mode period along with cyber autonomy functions that aim to support business critical infrastructure. Therefore, in our regions or all member states, trying to implement several initiatives to ensure that companies, businesses provided the essential services, as well that it's protected against the cyber threats, policies, legal obligations, to immediately disclose attacks, complete organization to the public very quickly, handling response efforts and risk significantly, and rising significantly reputational damage. Cyber autonomy model that I just showed now, it's offered a couple advantages. Firstly, it demonstrates that policy decision made at the company's level incorporated in the national security and economic consideration and provided the operational and pragmatic approach to the critical assets for the both technical and not technical prospects. This is very important to say that we are dealing, of course, physically and non-physically, and technically and not technical perspectives. And second, it helps maintain the resilience of infrastructure and information security architecture to ensure rapid recovery of the event and incidents. Therefore, in the critical investigations, their risk methodology, different risk methodology, and integration of risk management framework to implement the cyber autonomy, it's really helpful. And it's customizing autonomous based on the certain measures that company should implement. Well, the different businesses has a different approach, and the cybersecurity structure, I would say. We have a third-party suppliers businesses and you can see that they are different. If we kind of have a three models or three business groups that I can see as fragile, or it should be economically secure, or take care more about the cybersecurity, it would be certainly the cybersecurity consultancy and resilience firms that works in the software, as a software companies that work in this field. This consultancy firms offers experts, advices, and services to protect critical infrastructures to ensure financial systems. And they of course collaborate with third-party suppliers and technical solutions. But they also fragile to any attacks, because they are accumulating a lot of information that could affect their customers in terms of if this information would be or if data would be breached. The second company, kind of B, developed the market cybersecurity software, and the companies who develop the developers and for market security software and the intellectual property. And certainly those companies, because they're handling the intellectual property, they could be also the fragile to the cyber attack. And the second, it's risk management firms and logistic providers and digital companies. Here in the last slide, you can see business models that impact, or business models, the business elements that impact to the economical security, and that includes different aspects of it. So first, it's just a second. I have some issue in my screen. Yeah. So first, it's protection of the critical infrastructure. Economical security involves the critical financial systems, communication networks from the cyber attacks, and of course, it could disrupt economical activities. In the case if it would be destructive, and no measures would be taken, or no coordination effort would be there. Next, as I said, intellectual properties protection. So we need to ensure that our property includes secret trades, patents, copywriting protected from the cyber espionage, and maintain economical, and we can maintain economical competitiveness. Third, preventive economic espionage. If we deep dive into it, good governance of the organizations must be there, and priority for the business strategies also needs to be considered. All research data, economical data, should be evaluated before published, even publicly, and maybe, of course, it should be disclosed, it should be publicly available, but it should be anyways to making the effort to protect this data for possible losses, or taking care about this very carefully. The financial system resilience. As a person who is working in the critical infrastructure, I do believe that the financial systems more and more became fragile and could potentially be affected by different cyber groups, because we are going to for instance, digital euro mode or digital currency for different countries mode. That's why the protection of the banks, financial institutions from the cyber threats and other confidential information in financial sectors became crucial. We spoke a lot for a few years. We have been speaking about the cybersecurity in supply chain. Yes, the third and fourth and maybe even more supplies actors who is involved in our whole supply chain of the company could be impacted, and we should pay close attention into it. Economic security also involves security of the global supply chain that relies on the digital systems. Ensuring the integrity and the security of the supply chain helps to prevent disruption it could impact the economical sustainability. And again, if we look at the article and the research that would be published in the DESSERT conference, it also explains that why after the disturbing of the one of your supplier, it could impact also you and your company shares on the stock market, certainly. So it means even indirect impact on your financial losses. Data protections, I do believe it's nothing new. Maybe it's very general, but financial losses, personal information losses, it's essential for economical security, and that the breaches could impact and significantly this field. Government and industry collaboration. Well, cybersecurity policies and regulations for different countries involve on this government and industry collaboration activities. And in some countries, it's highly regulated. In some countries, not. Anyways, that could also be potentially impacted, and we should put close attention into it. Incident response and recovery. I showed you in the other slide, and I will show it again here, that the different teams should be involved in the recovery and response plan. And sometimes it is the team that we don't even expect, or we even don't put in our response plan as the potential stakeholders who will help us to coordinate this response. However, I'm arguing that this is important to make more kind of maybe to reconsider who is involving, and not having only the technical people or people who certainly was the part of the risk or your response exercise that usually we need to do at least once per year, but also involve the investor relations specialist or reputation management specialist in terms of the response and recovery plan. Having robust incident response and recovery plan helps in critical mitigation the economical impact of the cybersecurity, because if we have one company that represents or having the structural role in our economy, let's say it is the automobile company, and their stocks are heavily going down, this would be impact not on the whole industry but whole economy of a country. Or if it's pharmaceutical company who is having, let's say, 400 people, or it could be the case, or 100,000 people, and it could impact all of those employees, because this company are having the troubles to recover from a cyber attack, or the stock market significantly going down, and it's of course could cause even structural risk or systematic risk and influence on the other industries around these pharmaceutical or these automobile companies, as well as of course having the interruption of the overall economy of the country or on the region when this companies operates. So investment in the cybersecurity. Adequate investment in the cyber technologies, trainings, personnel is necessary to defend against cyber threats that could navigate impact of the cyber stability. And I have seen a few presentations during the first day that also reflects to this point. And the last, promoting the cybersecurity education, and this conference one of the most the good example of that. And awarenesses among employees, citizens, and businesses helps to reducing the risk of the cyber threats, and promoting the ethical behavior towards the economical security that helps to avoid those possible risks that could affect by destabilization of the economy as impact of the data breaches of any other attack is important. So at the end, I would be happy to pick up your questions, if any. As a summary, I would like to say once again, I was brave to summarize these two parts. First, the article and the research that you're going to be published in the conference, and secondly, I was briefly looking in the cyber economy to give you attention to importance and impacts of the cyber breaches in the company itself and different type of the companies. I hope I was able a little bit to cover it, maybe not a lot, but if you have any questions or comments, I would be happy to pick up it.
Thank you very much for your perfect presentation. And now we have time for a discussion. Please, dear colleagues, you can ask Irina. Professor Shmylova, first one.
I have questions. Thank you. Good morning, Irina. Very interesting your report about collaborative decision making in security, economic security. I am from Aviation University from Kyiv, and in aviation main criteria: safety, regularity, economic, and efficiency. And the question about aggregation in your research, security and economic. This is a simple aggregation or with priority? And next weight coefficients and forecasting and balance between security and economic. And about second question about risk. This slide, the main slide. This is a wave, I think. This is a wave, and slide number 6.
Right.
Very interesting because yesterday we had a report about wave theory or about forecasting development of risk in aviation. Wave theory as organization. And risk, minimal risk, acceptable risk.
Residual
always
risk
has always this risk in system. And the first question about consolidation, aggregation, collaborative two criteria: security and economic. Simple aggregation or priority. And balance in future.
Well, thank you very much for your question. So first, about the prioritization. Each company should have their own methodology. I will maybe open my...
Methodology.
So just a moment. I hope
methodology. No, this is interesting. Yesterday about wave approach and today, but yesterday were about aviation and now about economic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would answer on the question in this way. So first of all, thank you for the question. Each company or each organization should decide about their priorities based on their, I would say, from the business point of view, right? From their business needs. So business comes first, the company vision, what the company wants to be, the company achievements that both company wants to achieve. This is would be my first small question, or as a beginning. And after that, once you have your company or your organization priorities or vision needs, you do preparation, categorization, control selections, control implementation, control assessment, control the authorization, and control mentoring. This is the usual steps that needs to be done in your risk assessment before you are going to do anything. So in order to prioritize, you need to have the real complete methodology of that. You can use methodology, and actually this is what I would suggest you to do. Exists methodology that's called EBIOS. It's a French EBIOS.
Yes, understood. I see. This is a wave and balance between two levels. Little and big, high and little levels and balance between in dynamic. Yes, interesting approach.
Yeah, so if you want to, you can explain me or you can reach me and we will speak your language. I believe that I speak minimum 2 other languages that you speak. I will be happy to answer more and we can discuss, and maybe I can share with you those information. And your second question was, could you please remind me?
No, second question about space theory and application space theory for forecasting in economics and security economics. But I understood this is a dynamic process and balance between different criteria.
Well, indeed, the forecasting economic security, it is the task that needs to be done in the different levels and use these different tools, certainly. The second part, you need to involve the different stakeholders within the organizations who is doing that. Maybe at the beginning of all of this exercise, it should be prioritization with assets you need to protect and towards which assets in your organization or in your aviation industry you need to make this exercise in order to calculate the economical impact in the case if the cyber attack happened. I am in favor to calculation of this impact in order to, and certainly all industry is calculating this. It could be based on their shares, company shares. It could be other techniques, the loss of this or that assets and how much does it cost to restore it again. Or to buy and to make it fully functional, including the mandates of the people. So the job of the people that they need to put over this restoration. So it's wide techniques to use it to have this calculation in place. In aviation industry, I believe, in my opinion, the best is to use the techniques that is belonging to the military domain, because you have other aspects of your nature that belongs into it. That's why I put the EBIOS as a part of the methodology of it's a risk assessment methodology. However, I will be happy to share with you other after the meeting. If you can reach me, I would be happy to do that. Other methodology that helps you even to deal with your question, to calculate your aspects in terms of of your specific domain and field.
Thank you. I understood. And artificial intelligence use for statistical data and calculation, may?
Well, yes, certainly. I think you can use any data in order to calculate the impact. But my honest advice to all of you would be first to have your exercise and to go to the formal way of the risk assessments. Because the economical security is based, in my opinion, should be based, first of all, on the right business impact analysis or the risk assessment exercise that should be done. It means that you need to, very simply as usually, just making the list of all your assets or technology that could be impacted, make a categorization of that, making the range, putting against this the effort that needed in order to close it. So in order to make sure that these assets are mitigated, or that it could be in the handle of the certain risk range acceptable for you. Again, you need to clarify it by yourself, or for yourself, or for your industry. I'm sure that for some industries exist the best practices that you're using that, at least for financial or banking industry, it exists for sure. And after that, you're making the calculation in the end, including AI. My opinion is that yes, certainly we can use AI or any other automatization tools for sure. But at the end of the day, it is the person, it's the humans who makes decisions. It's the first. And the second, it is the anyways needs to be reviewed, and all the methods, all even the official European Union and other international certifications like ISO requires that. So you need to do the tests, you need to do the evaluation, you need to do the exercises and practices, you need to do the timetable. Timetable means, the exercise table when all your teams and stakeholders who involved in this exercise sit down together and making sure that they go through it and exercise all of this response plan all together. So, but this would be my basic advice to you as an answer. I hope I cover your question. But anyways, please feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to support you, and especially in aviation, the industry that I adore. It's a lot of knowledge required for this industry, and fantastic people who is working there. They're very knowledgeable. Please don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you. We have good opinion, I think. And
thank you. Sorry.
In Eurocontrol now testing artificial intelligence in aviation. In Eurocontrol now.
Okay. Thank you for this comment.
Okay, we have a few minutes for one more question, please, Professor Nikos Bardis. Your question?
Thank you, Irina. It was lovely hear your lecture. It's very interesting lecture, very interesting thematic nowadays. Also for companies and firms and organizations, but more I think that is for the countries in the government level, because the cybersecurity economics, we feel that it's play a main role now. So I'd like to ask you, because I saw your slides and you mentioned about the cost of recovery service data from cyber attacks, and I want to ask how far is the real calculations from theoretical and practical level, and of course, are there any methodologies for the calculate of the cost for recovery in public and in private sector, not only for cyber attacks well done, but also for failed cyber attacks, because there are lots, or our assets and the services, we have economic cost on that. And the last one, if there's a state and independent observatory and the central policies for calculating the cost of recovery, and of course for forecasting of cyber economics.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, I will start to answering, and I hope you can see, you still see my screen. Well, I will start to answering on your questions on the first one, the numbers. All right.
Yeah.
So in the medical sector, the cost of the cyber attack, for instance, the share price fall, it's about 15%, medical sector and communications. In the retail, In Europe, it's about 12%. If we go into other technologies, like technological companies, of course, they are more mature in the technological terms, it's a -8%. The financial sector, that highly regulated, it's a lot of procedures, regulations, policies or compliance standard that needs to be compliant by financials, 5%. Why I'm saying that in percentage, I'm not saying this in the numbers, because in order to calculate it, needs to be a few criteria match. First, companies needs to disclose or they give information about how much it costs for them to recover from the cyber attack, and or how much even sometimes they pay to those who menacé, it's French, who was threatening them in terms of the cyber. Second, you need to know if the company has a stock market or the stocks, the publicly traded company, like company in S&P 500 or other indexes. I will not go into details. For instance, in this case, how it is, these companies needs to be on their traded publicly in order to calculate it. So not a lot of companies does. For instance, if it's a private company, we cannot see it until they disclose it. The secondly, in terms of the to whom you need to be report or how it is organized from the operational point of view. And here I will back into that slide. If I am saying something that you already know, please tell me. If it's something that really additionally I'm telling to you, I'm happy. But in general, you should be familiar with the information that I'm, or more or less familiar information that I'm saying to you now. So first of all, in Europe, we have an obligation of the companies in the certain sectors also to report about cyber breach during the 72 hours. The organizations who is collecting this information or who was breached, what is the other actions, coordination efforts could be different. For instance, in the banking sector, sometimes it's a joint exercise between that you can join not for free, but as a volunteer, this exercise that conducted by banks and by authorities, local authorities. For instance, in Netherlands, those exercises is provided by Netherlands regulators, and the companies, financial businesses can join it. And in many cases, they join this common exercise to perform cyber or business continuity exercise, for instance, or joint response, how they will respond all together, business and governance. And many businesses would like to do that because for them it is less cost and they can practice all together. And actually it's an obligation to be compliant with certain standards, like for instance, business continuity standard, ISO 22301, when you need to comply by having a lot of also having the exercise as a part of your obligation toward this standard. In your country, so also each country, it's a big question, each country has their own procedure of the responding efforts. However, if you belong to the critical infrastructure, your structural, we call it structure company, like I had example with the manufacturing, you are obliged to have to follow the certain rules and regulations. For instance, I mentioned already DORA or Cyber Resilience Act, or we had the Data Act that just was finalized recently in August. So those regulations of the European Commission describe precisely where, when, and how you need to react to whom you need to report, and moreover, as a company or even as a university, you need to implement those steps within your current operational framework or enterprise risk management or any other policies that you have in place in your organization. So this is already there. You just take it and you use it. Of course, you can use the NIST, different NIST, like NIST 830, of course, 853 or 837. And you can also make this happen and to have that as a part of your behavior within the organization. A little bit more in Greece, you have certainly NISA. If you want to know who paid the numbers that reflects to your research in terms of how does it cost the attack, the cyber attack recovery, or what is the financial harm, you can ask NISA. I'm sure that they have this data. NISA in Greece, it's a European agency for cybersecurity, very well known and very well functioned. In terms of the other source, you can look at the ADA or ADA, which is European Defense Agency as a part of European Commission, European External Action Service. And you also can look at the local teams and the bodies of the government who is representing the teams that working in the cybersecurity or information security. Well,
excuse me. Sorry, we need to check time and.
Oh my God! Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Slava. Thank you, Irina. Thank you for your answers and your information. It was very nice. And wait next time to visit in Athens and hear you offline here. And also, if you are in university, we'll be happy to invite you in Erasmus programs that we have. So you can give it lectures here in our government's statement and the universities.
Yeah, thank you very much for your invitation. I would be happy to definitely to visit Greece. It's I have a Greek name, so it means Irini. It means peace.
Yes, of course.
So from the peaceful attitude of me to you, I wish you all of you very nice day and the other lectures successful presentations. And once again, thank you all for all your efforts that you're making in these times to the research in this very important field. And please cooperate with each other. Cooperation with each other is important. Support each other is important. So we all benefit, and this gives also the resilience to our countries and to our industries.
Yes. Anyway, your name means in Greece peaceful, peace.
Correct. Yes.
So it will be very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much once more. Now we better understand that investing in security is not expense, is innovation. Thank you. And thank you. And now it's our pleasure to invite for next presentation our keynote speaker from United Kingdom, Professor Alex Yakovlev. Alex, a lot of time work in area Automata, in area electronics, in area of artificial intelligence, and it's my pleasure invite Professor Yakovlev for his presentation, settling mission, stepping towards energy efficient, explainable, and dependable AI. Alex, Professor Alex Yakovlev represent Newcastle University, and he is a professor of computer system design, founded and leads the Microsystem Research Group, and co-founded the Asynchronous System Laboratory. He was awarded the EPSRC Dream Fellowship in 2011-2013. He has published 8 edited and co-authored monographs and more than 500 papers in IEEE ICIM journals and conference. Alex is a specialist in area machine learning hardware and last his research related to application settling automata in different domains. He has supervised over 70 PhD students. He is a fellow of Royal Academy of Engineering in the United Kingdom and fellow of IEEE. He is co-founder of recently created signed out company, Minimum Technology Ltd, and commercializing solution for machine learning and at edge. Dear Alex, welcome for your presentation, and please share your screen and start your presentation lecture.
Right. Thank you very much, Vyacheslav. Thank you very much, Slava, as I know you.
Hi.
Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to share my screen. I hope that my network is going to work well. For some reason, when I press share screen and want to share the entire screen, it does not allow me to share. Can you hear me at least?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
We see you and hear.
Right. Okay, now I'm trying to share the entire screen, and then I go to the presentation, and I hope that you see the presentation.
Yes, we see your presentation. Okay,
in full screen.
Absolutely okay. Yes.
Okay.
Welcome for start.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So thanks very much again for inviting me to give this lecture, to give this talk. Unlike the previous lecture, I will probably just focus on something a little bit smaller picture that will be a bit about a certain type of model that we have it can be used for a number of problems that exist with present day AI, and essentially I would be happy to answer your questions. So connecting it with the previous talk, I decided that I will include this slide that we're starting to be involved in a program grant project with 3 other universities in the UK, which will be focused on the financial risk analysis using the so-called event-triggered distributed AI or machine learning, where the idea is that to increase the scale of the risk analytics, just let me get to the point. So increase the risk analytic from fairly local sort of analysis for a particular party here that is interested, particular bank or a particular institution, to the level of the national risk model. And for that, we'd like to use the approach of event-triggered computing that we have been working with in the past, and try to get the analytics in the form of AI and machine learning into this distributed model. So essentially, the AI and machine learning, it brings its kind of combination of exploration and exploitation, or better say learning and classification, into the realm of the risk analysis. And in the form of the distributed and event-triggered, we're going to distribute this centralized picture that we've got here on the left into something which will look like that, where the cloud could be very heterogeneous and very much consisting of the resources of individual components, individual sites. Okay, now getting back to my talk, I don't have any specific agenda to list, but I'd rather just go straight into the point. Why artificial deep neural networks? Why they're not sufficiently meeting the requirements that we are facing? So first of all, we have to remind ourselves what these artificial deep neural networks are. So what their architecture and what are their features. So based on the model of the neuron, which is essentially a model which consists of some inputs that produce the values, then we've got weights, then we've got certain activation function, we've got the threshold here, and then produce output. And that forms a network where we've got a large number of the various parameters involved here, and we've got multiple layers of these neurons, so hidden layers here, and we've got heavy arithmetic operations involved here. We've got floating point numbers, and the learning algorithm is typically back propagation, where we calculate the deviation of the output from the expected, and we propagate some form of derivatives backwards to the weights to update the weights. So what are the basic problems with this DNNs? So first of all, they're typically a black box, which lends itself to be lacking explainability. And as a result, being also not so explainable or interpretable, they suffer from vulnerability at the system level. So you can see that there could be some form of attacks, and the attacks could change the picture, so the attacked image, and then the classification will be entirely incorrect here. Okay, so these are examples known from the literature, so that incorrect classification of, say, an image of the particular animal here, or sometimes it could be so catastrophic that instead of stop sign, we will just classify it as a green light. So the problem here with this black boxing and lack of explainability is that too many hyperparameters are involved. So deep neural networks can have anywhere from a few to a few hundred or even a few thousand hyperparameters. Then the hardware energy is also extremely high. So you could see the ChatGPT-3 training, it's gigawatt hours, and ChatGPT-3 inference is also megawatt hours. And they're certainly not suitable for distributing AI and machine learning. That this is the aim of many researchers, including ourselves and including our spin-out company. So we would like to propagate learning to the edge and even to put it on individual processors, individual chips. So what we propose is summarized on this slide. Something is called settling machine. First of all, what is a settling machine essentially, without going too much into formal on this slide? But basically, it's a combination of logic. I'm very pleased now, because the conference is in Athens, I'm very pleased to go to the Hellenic history and refer to the philosopher who is attributed to be the author of the propositional logic, Chrysippus. Then at some point in the early 60s, there was quite a bit of research, which was led by Professor Mikhail Tsetlin in Soviet Union. He was a mathematician and physicist who worked on cybernetics, who proposed the idea of Tsetlin automata. So basically, unlike people like Rosenblatt, who proposed perceptrons and tried to model neuron activity and more literal sense of that, Mikhail Tsetlin, his idea was that we should not go too much into copying the biology literally, but rather we can represent the behavior in the form of state machines or automata. And a series of Tsetlin automata were explored in those days, and then people explored the collectives of automata. And in fact, my supervisor, Viktor Varshavsky, who used to be one of the members of the team of Mikhail Tsetlin, who then published the book Collective Behavior of Automata. And here is an example where this Tsetlin automaton was used in a very small form to represent the behavior of a rat, as it's been selecting the direction where to go, left or right. And then in one direction, if it goes, it can be rewarded. In another direction, it can be penalized. So there'll be no piece of cheese there. And so after a while, the rat will start kind of maximizing its reward rate by selecting the direction there. So here at this point, when we combine this behavior of this settling automaton, which is represented by this state machine here, which can have two actions going left or going to right in the form of states, and states are memory. And so penalties and rewards are transitions between the states. This combination with the propositional logic, it gave an amazing kind of idea to our friend, our colleague from Norwegian Research Environment Research Institute, CARE, at the University of Agder, Professor Ole Christopher Granma, who proposed the idea of settling machine, where you can put a large collective of settling automata together with the possibility of doing inference by logic and controlling this logic connections here with the automata. Effectively, it has led itself to this idea of settling machine. Okay, so the settling machine again. So in the bigger picture here. So the accuracy of settling machines is competitive to artificial neural networks. The performance is can be very high performance. So we can work with 1 clock cycle per learning step. So that's why we put it nearly hardware, so that in fact we have implemented a chip for first implementation of the VLSI chip for a small settling machine here that can work at 33 megahertz, performing 10 tera operations per joule, extremely energy efficient. So the basic operations are logic, and this is what essentially hardware it likes. So because logic essentially it's logic gates that we have in VLSI circuits. So the operands, as opposed to floating point numbers, the operands are Boolean or integer partly. So the hardware resources are fairly modest here, and high explainability because of the logic and possibility to make some, in fact, deriving some rules in the inference, and these rules can be presented to the stakeholder as a form of explainability, and they can be very highly parallel. So this table illustrates the comparison between settling machine, it's convolutional CTM, convolutional settling machine, where in comparison with different types of machine learning techniques here. As you can see, so on different data sets, the performance in terms of accuracy is quite competitive here. Okay, so the applications of settling machines, as we now progress, we have done two symposia, international symposia in 2022 and 2023, this year, second symposium. So we already go into the applications in the medical research quite actively, things like ECG classification or allergy detections, into the Internet of Things and embedded systems, and the area of, say, intrusion and anomaly detection and drone activity classification, and then into the areas of cybersecurity, detection of networks attacks. And this is very much in context with what we heard from Irina in the previous talk. And the main features that, as I already mentioned, that interpretability, at the edge inference, low power, and very high noise resilience here that we can deliver. So now getting a little bit into the under the bonnet, effectively, into this what essentially is the architecture of settling machine. Now, the architecture of settling machine, as I said, that well, the bigger picture architecture is that we've got raw data set which generates as data. So we've got a block which is called Booleanizer. So Booleanizer is effectively conversion from the initial data that could be in the form of signals, even analog signals from the, and then they go through the process of Booleanization. So Booleanization effectively provides us with Boolean features here, which are represented by complementary literals, x and x bar, so a vector of booleans here, that goes into the box which is called clauses. So the clauses are basically the area of the clause computation is shown here on the right. So these Boolean literals, they go into the AND, effectively AND logic gates here, and these clauses, their outputs, then they start performing votes. So they do actually voting, a bit similar to what happens in the binarized neural networks, where we collect the positive votes and we collect the negative votes for the class and against the class. And then after we collected the sum with certain threshold, then we compare here which of these voting results, voting sums, is the largest. And so this way we predict the output. So we give the value, the identifier of the class, which has the highest number of votes collected from the clauses. Now, the clauses themselves, they are not just direct literals, x's and x bars here. They are modulated or controlled by the state of this settling automata. And settling automata effectively acting as weights in neural networks. In neural networks, we've got weights, but here we've got something Boolean. So these weights are binary. So they're either true or false. If the weight effectively is false, that may prevent the kind of effect of the literal onto the calculation of clause. So these actions, whether we would like to include literal or we would like to exclude literal from the calculation, active calculation of the clause, these actions are produced by this settling automata. And this settling automata, as you can see, they can have a set of states, and they have the possibility of either remembering or reinforcing if they've been rewarded with the solid arcs. We go from the middle ground where they're indecisive. We go further and further away, and we increase the confidence in our decision. Or we can reduce the confidence by going back from this high confidence, strong exclude or strong include, returning back to the middle ground, or even changing the mind and starting to include the literal. So there is this element of almost like, sometimes I call it, it's analogous a little bit to PID control, almost like here, because we've got this integrative element and we've got this differentiating element, so the proportionality here. So at this point, once we've got this calculation of clauses and this clause summation, and returning back to this part of the picture here, so when we compute the output layer and predicted output, then there is this kind of something that we call inference. This is that part. And then we've got the actual, through reinforcement mechanism, we've got the learning or training mechanism. As you can see, we've got the number of parameters here, and the number of parameters is actually quite small. So the parameters here, we've got the number of clauses that we throw. The clauses effectively, they're like voters. They collect sort of the features, their combinations, x's and x bars. They collect them in certain recognition of patterns, and then they act as electors effectively, a bit like American presidential election system. They act as electors, and these electors, they represent those features. So these clauses, they do voting. Then we have certain number of other parameters. T and S, they are parameters that control the thresholding, and S is the learning rate or sensitivity effectively. So that's the parameters that add extra element, which we call it randomization here, that gives some ability to sometimes make decisions about switching the state or staying in the same state based on the probabilistic nature. So we also have this N, which is the number of states in each of those, or half of the number of states, depending how we calculate, whether to calculate the full set of states or just per action here. So now getting back to the way how it works. So suppose that the input data is some sort of handwritten digit here. It's digit 0. this digit that goes into digitalized form. So we've got pixels. Pixels are represented by the level of intensity of these pixels. So there's sort of grayscale here that eventually, through some form of thresholding, they get into the Booleanized form. And this Booleanized form, it's basically like a truth table here, a row of truth tables. So we've got sort of essentially a vector of zeros and ones. This vector is now fed as the data item into the features and literals that go into the calculation of clauses. Now, clauses, as I said before, they are the way how features are entered are controlled by the states and the actions of this automata. And so the clause outputs then start putting votes. So they start voting either with positive votes or with negative votes. So for kind of simplicity, we take some clauses that are even numbered, like 0, 2, and so on. They are voting for, and the odd numbered clauses they're voting against. And so we've got the possibility of when the clauses are actively against a particular class to give their vote, and the system is symmetric. And you can see that negativity, and that leads to the Turing completeness essentially of the system, is that we've got negativity from the complements of literals, okay, and then we've got possible negative aspect here is that the calculation of the clauses, both positive polarity and negative polarity here. Okay, so then we calculate these class sums, and the highest sum, then we know that which class gives this the highest number of votes. Then we simply compare this class with the expected class, and that's where the result is then produced and can be used for training if this is not just inference, but it's the full loop, including inference and reinforcement. So here is an example of how we train the system to recognize the function xall between the literals x1 and x2. And as you can see that particular values of these features are coming. So x1, for example, is 0, x2 0. As you can see, the expected result in the truth table should be 0 here. So then in this calculation, when we apply the appropriate values of, at this moment, what we've learned from the Zettel and Automata, what sort of states they should be in. So that just goes and provides us with the predicted output with high accuracy here, provided that the training had already been done here. Okay, so that's an example how the inference in the Zettel machine works. Now, training in Zettel machine is done through this kind of technique, through the stochastic reinforcement rules here. As you can see that we don't have any kind of explicit gradient descent here in the arithmetic form, but there is a hidden sort of gradient descent here in the combination of logic conditions where we select, for example, the feedback. We determine, first of all, the feedback for the entire Zettel machine, which does this comparison here and computes the appropriate values of C1 and C2. Then we get this to the understanding of the feedback per clause. So the clause polarity is taken into account. And then per clause, we know the classification between different types of feedback, type 1 and type 2, which are effectively feedback which helps to combat false negatives and false positives. And then we see how literals themselves, x's and x bars, or these features, how they align with the calculation of clauses from the point of view of those false negatives and false positives that comes from the previous level. And basically here we compute the responses that we give to the individual automata. So this is the individual automata illustration where we effectively generate this penalties and rewards, and penalties and rewards that are recalculated then in simple form to where we're shifting ourselves in the decrementing the state number or incrementing the state number. Okay, so hidden here is this so-called Boolean derivative. So those who know a bit about logic circuit testing and sensitization, basically we have this gradient descent, but gradient descent is in the form of the very much kind of logic and Boolean type of derivatives here. And that's, again, music to the ears of hardware designers, because in hardware, the implementation is extremely energy efficient and highly performant. So natural explainability of Zetland machines, it comes with the illustration from this example from our colleagues from Norway, where they published, where they used Zetland machine to learn human interpretable rules for high accuracy text categorization. So as you can see that they categorize text here. So the task is determined whether the patient is allergic to drugs and not based on some kind of other type of rules here. So there is a big data set, and this data set has been processed through as I said, this Booleanized approach. Then the clauses have been formed, and we effectively establish these clauses, and we interpret clauses as rules. So with a certain number of clauses that we throw here, we can reach the accuracy, which is quite respectable accuracy here. And so the output from this system is essentially the set of propositions forming this type of rules where everything is connected with and as you can see, it's very much easier to use than anything that we can get from the neural networks here. So the question is now about hyperparameters. So again, deep neural networks versus Zetland machine. So the hyperparameters for deep neural networks is quite enormous here. So we've got number of hidden layers, we've got number of neurons, and so on at the architectural level. We've got them at the level of algorithmic optimization, learning rate. There are zillions of parameters here. Now with Zetland machine, basically at the architectural level, we've got two parameters: is the number of clauses that we throw in to do the votes, and then per Zetland automata, what is the number of states? Okay, and so and then we have then a relatively easy relationship that from the number of clauses, for example, we know that the more clauses we throw in, the high accuracy we have. And then we find the optimization with respect to the number of states here. So that's good enough. That would be the number of states, and this number of states effectively number of bits. So we're talking about roughly 1 byte per Zetland automata. Then algorithmically, we have this voting margin and the probability of reward and penalty. So the two parameters. So this is the threshold for the voting, and the other is the effectively the agility of learning. And then training itself is this very simple parameter, is the number of training epochs here. So we have studied the mathematical relations here between some of these parameters and found the optimum. For example, in the work of Anatoly Gorbenko and Olga Tarasyuk, they found that there is an interesting relation between, say, for example, the voting margin and the number of clauses. So essentially, it's a bit like how many voters you have for a particular decision, say in parliament. For example, you've got in parliament, you've got voters for some motion and against motion, right? So, and these voters, so the question is that at what threshold, what should be the discrepancy, sort of difference between them in order to make decision optimally? Apparently, we came up with the interesting kind of observation that it's similar to Jagiellonian compromise for qualified majority in the Penrose square root voting system. So, for instance, if you've got 50% of your voters voting for and 50% against, then the rule should be sort of if the total number is 100, so the square root of 50 will be roughly 7. So in a way, being from Britain, we had a big vote for and against Brexit. So we shouldn't have, theoretically, we shouldn't have made decision on the deviation of only 2 or even 4%. Like we had a decision made on 52 versus 48. We should have had it at the level of at least 7% difference here. So also a similar sort of interesting relation has been found that in terms of finding the optimum, if you've got the number of clauses, then what should be the probability of this reward and penalty calculation? So the agility effectively of moving between the states. And we found, again, interesting kind of link with the behavior of the crowd and velocity of the crowd with regards to the velocity of individual sort of member of the crowd. So now here's a little bit of demo. So I'm just conscious of the time. So I've got still a bit of time to show you some demo here. So the demo is essentially about handwritten digit recognition from the MNIST dataset. As you can see, we've got 10 classes here, which I represented in the form which is effectively negative kind of. Photographically, it's a bit like negative form, so that we converted sort of the handwritten ink here into some form of the enlightened pixels here, and the background is actually dark, so that's how they were represented. So now suppose that we do the vote for the certain class, and the class is 0. So we've got these clauses, and we compute the effectively statistics in the form of clause summation here. As you can see, as we go through the epochs, we've got the different clauses, and they reflect the appropriate features here, and you calculate the sum, sort of averaging, sort of better summation, I would say, the clauses per feature. As you can see, as a result, they accumulate those votes and we effectively show here the behavior of automata. Those automata that go and vote for including this particular literal, which is here. So the literals are in this pixel matrix. And as you can see that those that want to include the complement of the literal. So it's pretty much reflected, the picture is reflected very much in the memory of this automata. Now, for example, voting against this class, this is another interesting sort of observation here. So as you can see, the activity of voting against this class is somewhere in the whole of this donut here for 0. So those automata, they want to include X's here. Why? Because they vote against this class. Okay, and now you can see that in the entire picture, so that as we go through all classes, so that you see after these epochs, they gradually, this is effectively the memory of the Zetlin automata that corresponds to the combination for each automaton is the intersection effectively of the clause and the literal here. So again, it feeds to the idea of explainability. All we have to do is just look into the memory of Zetlin automata and just see the image there, where kind of visualize the image of this automata. So the last bit I wanted to mention here, that we've studied also the effect of kind of mitigation of faults here. We introduced and modeled stacked faults at different bits of the representation of the states. As I said, that if we have roughly, say, the number of states that are represented by 1 byte, so if this is a binary code, so we talk about, say, 256 different states. So if we incorporate, say, stacked fault at certain bits here, so in this case, it's actually smaller numbers, so we've got only 6 states here. we started to investigate what is the effect of incorporating some faults here. So the faults could be in the form of attacks, maybe. So there are certain bits of the Zetlin automata could be attacks into the Zetlin automata memory here. So we observed that the fact that we have clauses and the fact that we've got a number of states, there are two parameters. Remember that in this architectural parameter optimization. So we found that by increasing the number of clauses, we can return back to the 100% accuracy in the XOR classification example with the certain number of faults incorporated into, say, automaton number 1, bit 0, 1, or 2. As you can see that with smaller number of clauses, the accuracy drops, but then we can recover by having extra sort of redundancy in the clauses. And this natural redundancy is quite significant here that we have. So the redundancy in the form of clauses and redundancy in the form of TA states in memory. So this is a bit like combinatorial or combinational type of redundancy of logic, and this is more like memory. So I want to summarize now. So the Zetlin machine is a new logic-based machine learning algorithm. So it originates from the study of animals' ability to learn and simulates the collective behavior of learning automata. So it goes back and sort of historically into the 60 years ago, the work of Mikhail Zetlin and the team of researchers in Soviet Union. And TM provides a high level of intelligence abstraction compared to artificial neural networks. An ensemble of Zetlin automata, so-called rat brains, each making a discrete decision. So we've got discrete decision of individual, but the ensemble works extremely efficiently. And TM Zetlin machine uses stochastic reinforcement to update learning automata states. Its convergence and reproducibility has been proven mathematically. So there are some proofs that this model can be represented as the Markovian model, and then it sort of converges to the optimum. And TM has only 4 hyperparameters to turn, and whose optimum values can be found using explainable mathematical models. TMs provide comparative accuracy and supports natural explainability. And TM can be natively converted to computer hardware with great productivity and energy efficiency. And at this point, I would like to thank you for your attention. So if you've got any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. And I hope that my presentation was not interrupted by network issues or other kind of stacked faults or certain cyber attacks.
Thank you very much, Professor Alex Yakovlev. Thank you very much, Alex. And now we have time for short discussion and question and answer. Welcome for question, dear colleagues. Maybe I would like to ask about the following. I don't sure that my question is absolutely correct. What about vulnerability of Zetlin machine? I mean, not your hardware realization. I mean your methodology issue. And because explainability, you talk about explainability of Zetlin machine, and it's really high level of explainability for such model. But any comments concerning vulnerabilities of such automata, potential vulnerability maybe?
So the vulnerabilities here, like any essentially system, that one of the vulnerabilities is that when we embed a Zetlin machine, for example, if it was trained, excessively trained on a set of data that was prepared by for example, third party. Okay, so we don't have data, for example, ourselves. We train it on some sort of ethanol data that comes from third party, maybe some kind of central government or whatever. We train our settling machine, and then we go into the field and we start to analyze the actual data that we are facing. So one of the vulnerabilities clearly is the so-called overfitting. So we may overfit, we may train on something which then is not in the actual reality what we are facing with. Now this vulnerability, I think it affects every AI system these days, the overfitting. And this is the gap between on what we train and what we are inferring on. So inference it happens on the, like, for example, handwritten digits. You may train it on MNIST data set. It's tens of thousands of images of handwritten digits. But then this data, as you get it into the training your machine, it may not be the same kind of data that you get in the environment when you give this as some sort of tool to recognize somebody's handwritten digits. It may not work. This can happen anywhere. This can happen in the image recognition of people's face, signatures. In that respect, language, for example, handwritten, sorry, not handwritten, the written language, the typed language, so which is, this is much more sort of a stable kind of environment here. Anything that is related to the real signals, sort of in the real world signals, this is where vulnerabilities are much higher, I would say.
Okay, so thank you, Alex. And next question, Artem, listen, welcome.
Very short question. Thank you for your report. Is it possible to consider it as a true heterogeneous kind of AI computing from the point of view of classical architectures of Intel processors?
From the classic point of view of...
is it heterogeneous computing?
I mean, heterogeneous computing is something where we have heterogeneity
from the point of view of architecture.
Levels. From the point of view of the architecture, yeah?
Yeah. So it's not the execution of the program, but the voiding or some another types of architecture implemented directly, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. So we're talking about the architectures implemented directly. Are you talking about, Artem, are you talking about field programmable arrays or things like FPGAs? And
yes.
Or you're just talking about...
The question is it possible to consider it like some kind of heterogeneous computing in comparison with the traditional desktop implementation, for example?
Right. Well, I think it is possible in the way that, I mean, as we get into the AI, what happens is that we get into the world of effectively data-driven computing. So it's not computing which normally traditionally driven by the algorithms, right? Algorithms. And in the traditional way of computing, you write your code in some high-level language. You get this code compiled into the executable code, which is compatible with the processor. Okay, so heterogeneity can be here, that you can incorporate data-driven as some part of your compute. For example, you may write your code in such a way by saying that, okay, in this box here, we will get not the algorithm, we will get the data, say, some kind of repository of training data. We will train our extra processor, extra core, which will sit with the traditional core, and then we will train it in the process of compilation. So that's or it could be done even online. So this heterogeneity is just incorporating data-driven computing into the normal kind of style of computing, where we get it from programming code and so on. Because
so the answer is yes, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes or no? Yeah. Let's do the bullet.
Okay, and one question from Professor Yuri Kondratenko. Welcome. Please, short.
Thank you very much, Alex, for your nice presentation. You told that during information processing in this settling machine, some component like proportional, integral, and differential are used. So it is well known that, for example, like fuzzy set theory or neural network was very successfully used like base for design of fuzzy controller, neural controller, and so on. So is it possible to use this theory of settling machine for design of, for example, settling machine controller, for control of object, not only for recognition or decision making, but only for control of object in non-stationary condition or uncertainty condition and something like that. Thank you.
I think it's a great area here that we can. I mean, taking settling machine, we can interpret it as the feedback control. It is adaptive system. So the adaptive system at different levels. So one of the level of adaptation is that it effectively configures by this includes and excludes by the actions of the automata, because the automata are the brain of our controller. So by adapting the connections, so we do sort of structural, for example, structural adaptation is that because we connect some of the inputs to certain organs in our controller, so these connections can be either reinforced with by having true connection or excluding connection, because this is binary decision here at the level of elementary connection. But the combination of connections, by being elementary Boolean, the combination of connections becomes much more sort of, I wouldn't say fuzzy, but it becomes closer to integers, effectively, right? Because, and so that we tune these connections, and that's very much kind of the framework of the adaptive control. And the adaptation process is quite naturally, it's much slower process than the actual response from the inputs to outputs, so that the controller itself can, that's what we observed in the settling machine when we implemented it in FPGAs or or even in special chip, that the inference between the delay latency between inputs and outputs, it's very, very small. But if we put it in the process of adaptive behavior, of training, the cycle of training is an order of magnitude slower. So this is, I think this is, Yuri, I think it's a great actually topic. So we have not tried yet to use settling machine in the areas where, but the combinations, small combinations of settling automata, they have been used in the past. There used to be a nice book, actually, I've got it here. It's one of my sort of book by Narendra, A Learning Automata. In the 80s, they picked up settling automata and some other automata from settling group, and they used them for optimal control in, for example, in telecommunications and telephone networks and things like this. So.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, and sorry, but we need to stop our discussion because the next session are going. Thank you very much, Professor Yakovlev. Thank you very much, dear Alex, for your presentation, for your contribution, and hope we will meet on the next hour conference, DESSERT', and not only. Thank you.